let's take it for a spin. Roofless. And see if it can be any ruthless. Maybe I should put the seatbelt on in case it will go too fast.
Mazda Roadster.
It must be really wonderful to have a reliable, affordable, open-top sports car. And here is the one. Sold by the millions. Celebrated by every car magazine on the planet. Got to the list of the best sports cars of all times. But for some reason, it has never gotten under my skin. Welcome to MotoringBug, the only disease worth spreading, and to this new video, where I give this Mazda MX-5 new chance to impress me and win me over. Okay, so now let's look at it with this nice curvy silver hardtop. I still think this is gonna be a tough job for this car today, because also it is a very late NA model built in 1997, and it's a really basic one. I mean it. It's really basic. It's got 1.6 liter engine and only 90 brake horsepower. And of course, with 250 something kilometers on the clock, 252 to be exact, the owner asked me not to push it to its limits. We'll see about that. But before we take her out for a spin, let me cover a few bases first. And I'd like to start with a rather big one. Where is the design that's supposed to make my heart beat faster, or at least make it skip one bit? I just don't see it, really. I'm a man, and for me, the process of falling in love with a human being or with the car is hardwired in my small prehistoric brain. And it's defined in three particular stages. First, of course, fall in love with my eyes. Then, fall in love with the touch. Then, fall in love with my ears. And only then, I might be able to engage my mind, my engineering mind, that would tell me many things about the trickery involved in the suspension, or reliability, or the price. But I'm afraid this wouldn't be possible, because if all the three bases were covered successfully, my mind would be gone by that stage and nowhere to be found. So with the Mazda Roadster, I think I'm not even able to pass the first stage or cover the first base. And she can smile at me as much as she wants, because this apparently is the smile in the Japanese design language. Or she could pop her nice little goo-goo eyes at me all that she wants. But nothing happens. Really, nothing. It is as stable as a sleeping Fuji-san. And that would be totally fine for a product coming from the land of the rising sun. that would be business as usual. Create a totally reliable car, add some modern features as an optional extras like electric windows or electric mirrors or air conditioning, nowhere to be found on this model because it's a base one, and send it back to the West with the low sticker price, starting at just $39.99 or whatever it was in the 90s. But in this case, as we know, the Japanese were set to recreate something that is truly dear and nostalgic to the Western eye, heart and soul, the 1960s Lotus Elan. What's also weird is that the exterior design came mostly from California, as also its name. Miata means reward in an old German language, wherever they found this in the dictionary. So maybe Mr. Bob Hall, who was in charge, was instructed not to fall too much in love with the Lotus Elan, or maybe Miata's mass appeal was a higher priority than its sex appeal. Anyways, what came out of this joint venture is this car, which reminds me a little bit of a baby shark that's a bit too sad, or a little happy baby bear who ate too much of fermented berries and it was a little bit too happy and high. And they even provide you with the emoji button to choose your mood that suits you best for this road trip today. Well, be it for one reason or another, unfortunately, the visual pleasure is where the Miata fails to tick any boxes for me. Touching. Well, we can skip this part altogether because honestly I cannot find any curve inviting enough to run my hand on, except for maybe this part of the hood, which is, I don't know why they made this. Well then, with this, let's go on and hear it. And now when it's back in its roofless shape, first let's have a look under the bonnet and see that ruthless tiny teeny teddy bear. And better, let's hear it. All I can hear really is that zoom, 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 zoom. Maybe that's why they used that as a slogan in the later days. But maybe there is more audible pleasure coming out of that huge exhaust tailpipe. Let's hear it. Now that sounds a bit better and gives us some hope. Enough talking then. Let's see what this baby can do. And that brings me to another piece of design on this car. I can hardly imagine any long-nailed creature, or the creature with the nails just done, using this door handle. See? But I don't care. Luckily, it's not my problem. Avanti! Now with this Wunderwagen in my hands, I'm wondering, Miata is a German word. Yeah, true German word, which means reward. It should be rewarding. Well, what can I say? This is not very masterful duetto from this little engine and the huge tailpipe. Yes, of course, it provides you with the confirmation that you're moving and gaining speed. But it's not enough. I can't hear no pops, no burbles, no bangs on overruns or liftoffs. They're absolutely non-existent. And you know what? I don't buy that nonsense that Japanese in the 90s didn't know how a little red sports car should have sounded. They've been creating them themselves. Honda had produced its glorious S500 in the 60s, revving up to 9,000. And then there was the masterpiece, of course, that they were trying to copy, the incredible Lotus Elan itself. Have you heard that meaty and juicy rumble from low to mid-range? With every cylinder explosion pronounced carefully, that gets even mightier and juicier at the high revs. That eargasm, together with telepathic steering and body lightness, which provided way higher power to weight ratio than original Miata, was indulging you to forget about everything, about your life and your wife and those hefty repair bills she had found on your desk the other night. What was the trouble to recreate something like that? And I tell you what, apart from extensive noise regulations, the more conceivable cause is the fault of the marketing people, who I'm sure stepped in and organized that famous focus group where they played to a potential customers many different sounds of the different cars, of course, and asked them to pick the most suitable one for the image of a red little sports car passing by. Really? Choosing the sound for your glorious creation by customer vote. I would like to hear what Enzo would have said about that. But of course, he couldn't be bothered. I, on the other hand, could have been bothered to meet at least one person from that focus group for some thorough interrogations and having their ears checked. And while we are on the topic of focus groups, let me bring your attention to another marketing research that Mazda have conducted. Do you know why these side mirrors are designed as a pupa powder box lid and placed exactly at these spots on the doors? That's because they were designed to divert the air away from the cabin and make sure that those Goldilocks hairstyles are not gonna get messed up. And this was tested on yet another focus group of long hairstyle models. I can hardly imagine anyone from that group wearing a helmet one day, or even asking whether this car is going to be better with the front wheel drive or the rear wheel drive. Naturally then, anyone who's ever tested the MX-5 says you don't need loads of power to feel happy and have fun. Agreed. But then don't try to sell me this car as a sports package, because sport is a competitive physical activity which by definition requires strength and power. Anyone who's ever attempted an overtake on a road like this will admit that power is your best friend here. And how would you explain that a few years after its launch, Mazda was offering turbo kits for Miata? The answer is simple then. Miata was targeted at the people who just wanted to have a nice pleasure cruising automobile without being disturbed by too aggressive engine noise or too much wind in their hair. And that was the first major step to its success. Another big step to its glory was the fact of being cheap. Little wonder in the society where affordable and good enough results in sales success rather than something expensive but really beautiful. And another obvious reason for Miata's appeal in the West was the eager need of UK's population to soak up all the sun they can and whenever they can. Although fun in the sun is not exactly the picture that springs into mind when you mention that foggy, rain-swept island floating in the sea somewhere north of France, but Britain actually is the convertible capital of Europe, despite the weather and its people, who are usually very reserved and only allow themselves to express their affection to horses and dogs. And maybe they would love to express it to that impressionable lady in the passenger seat. But oil-covered hands, after yet another quick roadside fix, wouldn't help it. So I maintain that exactly for that last but huge reason, they were so ready to accept this new budget-friendly Roadster, which was designed as far as possible in the West, in California, and was produced as far as possible on the East, in Japan. So don't get me wrong, please. This little red car, or whatever color you choose, will give you lots of pleasure and fun. And that's what we advocate for on this channel. Motoring should be fun, and you should really enjoy what you're driving. So if you want to put one of these in your garage, you won't be wrong. I, on the other hand, consider it a nice car that can give pleasure even to inexperienced drivers. I think of it as a bicycle with the training wheels. You can have all the fun, but be safe and sure you will make it. And there is nothing wrong with that either. So as for me then, did she win me over today? Unfortunately not. But that's me, and I'm weird, and I admit that. Look at my videos on my channel. For me, this would be just too conformist, too obvious choice. And whenever I see where the whole mainstream is going, my mind screams at me, look the other way, and I do. So I'm afraid today is the same story for Miata. She tried really hard and gave me pleasure, but nothing extra to make her unforgettable, to make me start flipping through the advertisements, to lose my sleep over it, and to get that burning desire to put this car in my garage. It's a good fun. No doubt about that. But anyone who watched my channel knows really well what car I prefer to keep in my garage. And with that, let me wish you all the best of luck and happy motoring. And if you please consider subscribing to the Motoring Bug, the only disease worth spreading, that's the biggest thanks you can give me, and the biggest appreciation I can ever hope for. Ciao!